Hey guys, what's up? It is week 98, and I'm going to start this off. Excuse King is back. I'm sick again. It's not strep throat, but I'm sick. I lost my voice. I think this is just, the world's way of telling me to shut up. I probably should. But, it's crazy. It's March, and I've already been sick 3 times. I mean, yeah, everybody gets sick once, twice a year, maybe. It's March. I've been sick 3 times. That's ridiculous. But first I want to start this off by saying keep your eyes open for an episode of I Love Monsters that will pop up on YouTube I did with Dustin Mills. He has a show of his own, of course, called I Love Monsters. Dustin Mills is a director. I had a guest spot on there. I'll probably be popping up on that show from now and then, whatever. But we discuss a pretty cool subject, and, it's going to be edited awesome because Dustin's a pretty damn good filmmaker, so... Okay, let's hop into the reviews. The first one is a doozy because it's a box set from Arrow Films, and this is José Larraz. The films of José Larraz, they call it Blood Hunger. I guess that's kind of this thing. This unfortunately does not include Deviation, which I was kind of hoping to see after they talked about it a lot on the special features. I am familiar with this director. I've seen Edge of the Axe and Vampires. This set includes Whirlpool, Vampires, and The Coming of Sin, which I've always had an interest in because it had some crazy stills that look like Jodorowsky kind of stuff. I'll start off with the first one in this set, Whirlpool from 1970. This is his first film he directed. José Larraz is a very unique director, and he's kind of one of these guys that has his own style, and going through this set you can tell. Whirlpool is a very weird movie. It's not really, it doesn't really start off as like a horror movie. It starts as this kind of weird, kind of sexual softcore love triangle between an older woman and this photographer and this young model in this kind of abandoned house. Not abandoned, but a secluded, isolated house that's off this lake. And it looks a lot like the setting that José Larraz, maybe it's even the same location he would use in the movie Symptoms, which is actually really great. Symptoms is a great movie by this director. And it shares a lot of similarities to that, to be honest. At least kind of gloomy British movies he made, and this is one of those. But it looks great. I love the setting. Very dark, very gloomy. And right in the opening, you know something's wrong with this guy as he fishes a boot right out of the pond. But as it progresses, it turns into more like an early kind of horror film, exploitation film. And it becomes rapey, and a lot of the subject matter is kind of disturbing. And the end of this movie was something like straight out of Last House on the Left. 4 years before, or 2 years before Last House on the Left. So, wow, that's what I thought. And I was watching this, and when it was wrapping up, I was like, no, you can't end it like this. This isn't going to end like this. And I was like, this is a dark movie. This is a very creepy movie, and it's an exploitation movie. It really feels like it, but it doesn't really feel like it's going to go where it goes, and you never know where it's going. And when it does do that, you're like, oh, it never really solidifies what kind of genre it's in until the ending. And then it's kind of a surprise and a shock. I don't want to spoil too much. I've probably already done enough. But what I loved about this movie right here were the special features as well. It had Tim Lucas, who's one of the best, commentary with Tim Lucas, and Kim Newman's on here as well. So yeah, you got to love that. But I love the commentary by Tim Lucas. I don't mind, doing the Internet Movie Database thing that a lot of the guys do on the commentary. But Tim Lucas does that. But on top of that, he talks about the time that films were being made and how this movie was reviewed and his personal experiences with it. He talks about how Ebert hated it, and I love hearing a lot of that stuff. And he brings up a lot of poignant questions, like, maybe somebody saw this on Last House on the Left. Like, maybe Craven saw this movie and stuff like that. And how come Last House on the Left is praised and held in such high regard? I like it myself, and this one's not. And it's really kind of the shift of culture. And he talks about that. And that's interesting to me. And I like the movie. I was kind of surprised with this one. This one took me a couple steps back. And I thought, wow, man, that's pretty rough. And it's not easy to shock me. And a lot of people will be like, well, this movie's way worse. But this movie's 1970. And I never heard of it, really. Except that maybe it was like his first movie. And it never really got any attention. This one was thought to have been lost. There was a bootleg floating around a little bit ago. But besides that, it was lost. They also have a comparison of the U.S. cut and the international cut. This is the U.S. cut, and I actually prefer it after seeing the comparisons they did. It's shorter. The stuff they cut, it doesn't need to be there, and the end narration, I'm glad it's gone. It makes for a more impactful movie. That's Whirlpool.
Beware. The house looks innocent enough. Nothing large, nothing pretentious. A nice place to visit if you never want to leave.
This house is definitely not for me. It makes me uneasy.
Beware. The guest is always a girl. Theo and Sarah prefer it that way. Sarah has her reasons. Theo has his. She must be young, beautiful, photogenic.
And then the three of us will really be able
willing to experiment.
Enjoyment without reservations of any kind.
And fond of games.
I'm the loser, and I'm the winner.
Beware. Theo is a strange boy, a delicate boy, obsessed with photography. Theo has a dark room.
No one is allowed in my dark room. Absolutely no one.
But some peculiar things come out. What ghosts of corruption haunt this house? What lost innocence screams in the attic? Who are these people? What do they want? There's a thin line between pleasure and pain. Between ecstasy and terror. Between the living and the dead. Beware this house. Beware this swamp. Beware the Whirlpool. It has all the ingredients of a Hitchcock thriller. Plus,
the next one is Vampires, which I have seen before. And this was released on Blue Underground, the Blu-ray. And I don't remember comparison which one looks better. But this one's a new scan. I think it's maybe a 2K or 4K scan. But I've always kind of enjoyed this movie. Again, it's very sexualized and very mysterious and has this weird element about it. Like they say, all his dialogue is just super bizarre in here. And it follows these two vampires, or these kind of women that pick up people and kill them. And you know, I could see this movie inspiring a lot of newer movies like Raw. In fact, Raw feels like this, how they're standing on the road and she plays dead, but these two are like hitchhiking and they take them back to their house and they drain their blood. But it starts to get a little complicated because one starts to play a game with somebody they shouldn't be, draining their blood longer than they should. There's lots of sex in here. There's a pretty graphic sex scene in here that I think was a little boundary pushing for the time. But this one's really solid movie. Again, it has that gloomy British atmosphere that I enjoy. It has a pretty solid cast. There's plenty of nudity, plenty of craziness. And when the vampires go in their frenzy, it's terrifying. Like, they just run at you, they grab you, they start biting you. And it feels very primitive and scary. And I enjoy the hell out of that. This one has a good atmosphere, like I said. And it is kind of a slow burn, similar to Whirlpool. But it's good stuff, and especially if you like the Euro vampire movies, this is kind of a staple in that. There is a commentary by Kat Ellinger, who is also one of the best. Tim Lucas and Kat Ellinger, I make sure I watch their stuff, and I enjoyed that commentary as well.
Look. It's one of those women with a man.
Oh, again?
There's his car if you need convincing.
No, I don't need convincing. I just don't see anything peculiar about it, that's all.
like that.
Hmm. Look, may I make a phone call?
Afraid not.
Hmm?
There's no telephone in the house. Can you give us a lift? It's not far.
Yes.
Thanks.
Who are you? Where the hell do you come from? I must get away from here. I must get away from here!
And for you. Well, that's strange.
What?
My watch has stopped. Look. That's never happened before.
The final one here is The Coming of Sin, and this is the one that was it was way later. It's 78, and I don't believe it was one of the British ones. I'm not 100% on that. But this one's completely different than the other two for me. I mean, they're all different, but this one is a little bit more different. But this is a weird one. We follow this kind of a gypsy girl. Movies language there. And she is passed on to stay with this rich woman because her, basically her people who are taking care of her, and she's a maid there, are going on vacation. So they pawn her off kind of in a way to this single, well, not single, but this woman who's by herself at the moment. And this weird relationship starts between them. But that's not all else going on. The girl, she has these strange dreams and nightmares where this guy buck naked is riding on a horse, and they look very similar. They look very similar to each other, and that kind of does this weird kind of incestuous thing. Like all José Larraz movies are always pushing that boundary, and you feel that. But these weird supernatural elements, and she is having these weird sexual feelings towards him, and he is obviously being very sexually aggressive towards her, attempting rape. But this woman in the house starts to have an affair with both of them, so it's this weird menage a trois. Similar thing that he had in Whirlpool. There was a menage a trois with weird sexual dysfunctions. This one has that menage a trois element going as well. And it's just a strange movie, and it has a lot of weird imagery. One where she is in this kind of like, I guess you'd say, the Trojan horse kind of deal. It's completely hollow, but you can see as an audience member this horse empty, and she's inside of it naked, and the male guy is on his horse naked as well, and it looks like this weird sexual mating ritual. Weird stuff. This one I didn't feel as strongly about. I thought some of the editing was a little weird in here. I didn't care for the editing as much, and I thought there was a couple shots that they cut away after a violent thing, and it's like it should have stayed away because it would have been more impactful, but they go back and they show a scene this size, some special effects that aren't particularly great anyway, so it's like the way it was set up, the way it played out, it should have been. This one's my least favorite of the bunch. I enjoyed the other two much more. This one I liked. I didn't love it. It's okay. I think that it's interesting at certain points. A couple of the scenes look really bright, like the camera was directly getting hit by the sun, and it was just like, I'm not sure if this is the elements or just the certain filmmaking style at this point. But besides that, they all looked really great. And this one is interesting, but it's just the least interesting to me, if that makes any sense. It's more of a sex thriller instead of a horror movie like the other two. And not that I have a problem with sex thrillers, but the way Larraz makes horror movies, I'm more, or exploitation movies, I'm more interested in that, even though this has a lot of exploitation elements. But there's, of course, a twist at the end. And it's kind of crazy. This movie has so many alternate titles. I mean, it's not that great. You can kind of see it coming. But it has so many alternate titles, like Violation of the Bitch. Now that title right there is enough to get somebody's interest to be just like, say, what in the hell is this? And the reversible cover is actually that as well. On here, the special feature that really struck me was they had an interview with one of his collaborators who was kind of like a friend, maybe even a protege of his. And he talks for like maybe 35 minutes about José, and you get to know him a little bit and how he felt about his films and how he felt about his career, because José died, I think, a few years back. So that was really touching and heartfelt. And it's like one of these deals where you watch these special features and like if you have like Fagrasso talking about Bruno Mattei and there's a moment where he gets emotional and you can see it in his eyes and you're like, that's touching, man. This filmmaking bond. There you see like George Eastman talking about Jody Motto and you're like, I love that. And then here we have, I can't think of this guy's name. He's a filmmaker himself talking about José Larraz. And I was like, that's pretty touching as well. And it was a great addition to the release. But this thing is great, hard, nice little box on there. I know people like to hit the boxes of these things. I'm like, this is sturdy, guys. But yeah, it's a great release from Arrow Films. And hopefully there's a part 2 coming out with like Black Candles and Edge of the Axe. We can keep our fingers crossed. My guess is there probably is.
Hold it.
Divine, isn't she?
Do you know what happens to curious little girls who play with fire?
What did happen to Rhonda?
Who are you? Where the hell do you come from? I must get away from here. I must get away from here!
Okay, guys, this next one is from Mill Creek Entertainment. And this is one of these movies that had such a bad rep. I was like, I'm not really interested in seeing that. I'm not familiar with the comic book. But then I got a chance to review it, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to check it out. It is Barbed Wire with Pamela Anderson Lee. Anyone that grew up in the 90s knows that Pamela Anderson Lee was it. Like, it was every guy's fantasy, or it was probably a lot of girls' fantasy, too. It was Pamela Anderson. Everybody was obsessed with her. Yeah, she plays this character called Barbed Wire. And it's a super kind of comic book movie. I'm not familiar with the comic book, so I can't be like, that's a terrible adaptation. Because I don't know. And in reality, I don't care that much. I only care about this movie. Okay, it's in the future. I believe it's, in a couple years is actually the date. It's one of those movies that you watch and it's old. It's like, the year is 2006. The world has become a complete... And you're like, what? It's one of these deals. So, Barbed Wire, she runs this bar. She completely stays out of this political turmoil that's going on. We have a resistance, and then we have this kind of fascist kind of government led by Steve Railsback, which is one of the weirdest kind of choices to have. Every time Steve Railsback pops up in a movie, it's always such a weird casting choice for me. Like if he's in a lead in like Life Force or something, you're like, I mean, not that he's bad. I like him. He's just a strange actor, and he always pops up in the strangest spots, from Devil's Rejects to Armed and Dangerous. It's just there's Steve Railsback, and he's just super kind of bizarre. But he's in this as the bad guy, and he got blue contacts and kind of going for this Nazi thing. He's pretty good in it. I enjoy him. He's after these contacts and this girl. And if this girl gets these contacts, she used to work for the bad guys, and she knows this information. She's trying to escape. And if she gets these contacts, she can kind of slip through the system and get away and have this information that could hurt the bad guys. That's the plot of the movie. Barbed Wire doesn't want to get involved. There's a bunch of other characters in here as well. The girl's husband is played by the guy from Once Were Warriors. He's a big New Zealand actor. He might be one of the biggest New Zealand actors there ever was. So he's in this, and it's kind of like, okay. And Xander Berkeley's in it, which kind of blew my mind as well, and he's really funny in it. I like Xander Berkeley. Every time he pops up, it's always welcomed. There's some other people who pop up in here too. A Bobo from Double Dragon, he's in here, and you knew right away when you see that guy, he's getting shot or hurt because he's a stuntman. And I'm forgetting a couple that pop up. Jack Noseworthy from Breakdown, but my favorite addition in here is one of my all-time favorite character actors, and I got to give him a special shout-out, Nicholas Worth. And I feel bad for him in some breaths because he always plays this, like, sweaty pervert, but he's so good at it. He's good at everything he does, but in this one, he has a small role, and it's an absolutely hilarious role where he's in some bondage gear. But Nicholas Worth is most known, probably for most people that like horror movies or these kind of movies, from Darkman. He plays Paulie, and from Don't Answer the Phone, where he plays Kirk Smith, I believe his name in it. But he's like a crazy slasher strangler. But he's in tons of movies, from Best of the Best 2 to Hologram Man to City Heat. He's just a really good kind of a henchman or goon or pervert in movies. He's great in this, and he has some very funny lines. But Pamela Anderson, I actually thought was pretty decent in here. I thought the world they created was very fun, very over the top. There should have been a little bit more action in places, I think, but there was enough action, and it was pretty big, and it had a lot of over the top, goofy characters that I enjoyed. The surround sound was really good too, which it was kind of shaking my house a little bit, and I was like, all right, I'm into this. This is fun. And I mean, it's not going to win any Academy Awards, but you guys shouldn't expect it. It's called Barbed Wire with Pamela Anderson. Not that I'm super defending this movie, but it's just weird what gets crapped on and what doesn't. But this was a lot of fun. I would give it a recommendation if you're into this kind of stuff. It's just a silly action movie from the late 90s that, you know, is kind of like a lot of action movies weren't made at that time anymore. Well, they started to die out a little bit, the ones I enjoyed at least. But we also have this character I just would throw it out called Big Fatso. He's like a crime boss. He's very funny as well. He lives in like this junkyard. Reminds me of something out of Street Trash. But I enjoy this quite a bit. Check it out.
Music!
See a badge? Don't call me babe.
Okay, guys, the next one is a Patreon pick. And I picked this up. It's a 4-pack. They wanted me to watch The Giant Claw. It was my cousin. He's getting back at me. The Giant Claw is infamously known as a horrible movie. And I know that, what was the guy, the gamer, Angry Video Gamer, he like had this spotlight on it. It was the best monster movie ever, which was kind of like being facetious or whatever you want to say. But The Giant Claw, it's a 50s giant monster movie. Okay, I'd never seen it. I didn't have much interest in seeing it, but I do like 50s horror movies and monster movies. And I'm gonna say this right now: The Giant Claw is bad, but it's earnest, and I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike it. The Giant Claw looks cheap, yes, but it feels like your typical 50s movie, except it's kind of not completed and kind of patched together with narration. We have this pilot who's in the air and he spots something, but nobody believes him because it doesn't pop up on radar. He's like a radar specialist, is more like, not a pilot. So he goes down, and everybody's mad at him because they sent a bunch of ships up to look for whatever he spotted. But one of the planes never came back. So everybody's mad at him. Nobody believes him. Planes start to disappear, and they realize soon enough that there is something in the sky. What is it? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's the Giant Claw. It's this giant turkey buzzard-looking thing the size of a battleship, and it came from space, so it has this weird magnetic field on it, which basically makes it indestructible and undetectable by radar. So that's the plot of the movie. It's the military trying to destroy this Giant Claw and to figure out how they're going to take out this magnetic field. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of trying to discuss. And then there's a lot of the Giant Claw destroying things and narration put over it. Anytime this movie needs a transition, they have narration. Anytime this movie needs exposition, there's narration. I don't know who the narrator is. That's the biggest flaw of the movie. But honestly, I don't care. It's stupid. It's kind of fun. The Giant Claw he looks bad, but nothing worse than the horror movies you see nowadays sometimes, or back then even. So he's a really hokey monster. in a really hokey science fiction movie. But I believe that the filmmakers were earnestly trying to make something, at least try their best. And you got to give them points for that. That's The Giant Claw.
It's got one of the planes. It's coming after me.
Mitch.
That bird is extraterrestrial. Comes from outer space. From some godforsaken antimatter galaxy millions and millions of light years from the Earth.
Atomic hydrogen weapons capable of wiping cities, countries off the face of the Earth, are completely ineffective against this creature from the skies.
There it is now, attacking the United Nations building.
The bird's after us, chasing us. How are you doing? For God's sake, hurry, man. It's catching up with us fast.
Okay, the next one is another Patreon pick by Derek B. And he picked a 1944 movie for me, A Little Change of Pace, Laura. Now, right when I saw this cover and I heard it was kind of a film noir. I was like, oh, is this film noir? He was like, yeah, sort of. So I watched this one, and this is a great mystery movie. And everybody knows it. It's kind of stupid me talking about this one, but I was really impressed with it. Okay. We have, right off the bat, it opens up with narration. And not unlike The Giant Claw, it's really good narration. And we have this character who's very odd and kind of eccentric. He writes for a column, and he's sitting down ready to talk about Laura, who had just been murdered. And it's funny to have the titular character right off the bat be dead. And it's even weirder to have the narrator. It's just strange. So he starts to talk about Laura when this police detective shows up to his house. I believe Dana Andrews. And he starts to question him. And he says, we're going to go over and see her fiance. And the fiance is played by the one and only legendary Vincent Price, who's kind of a shisty kind of guy. Price is great in this. Price is always great. Love his accent, even though I think it's probably more his real voice than I would like to, that I know. But, so yeah. So they start to discuss, and we learn that Laura was murdered, shot in the face, unrecognizable, by a 12-gauge shotgun. So this police detective is trying to figure out who did it. Is it the fiance? Is it this columnist who is an ex-lover? Because Laura was a sweet person, but she attracted everybody because she's so beautiful. Everyone wanted her. And as the detective digs deeper and learns more about her, and we have flashbacks, he starts to fall for her too. Through the middle of the movie, there's a big twist. A big twist. And without spoiling too much, I will say, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's one part of the movie, and it's so hard not to talk about it because it's such a big twist, and it's such a poignant part of the movie, and it changes everything completely. And it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel false. And it's really interesting. I don't like the love story or the love angle in here. I just don't think it works that particularly well. And that's my only minor gripe. Besides that, the transitions are great. Like a character will pass out and it will zoom in on his hand. It will pull back on his hand. And it's like complete transition of time. Love that. Love Vincent Price in here. Love the complex character relations in here. Love who turns out to be who they are. And I love not knowing what happened until the very end. So, highly recommended. Looks great in black and white. The camera works good. It's a classic for obvious reasons. Loved it. Great stuff. Thanks, Derek B. I wish I could say more, but I don't want to spoil it. And there's smarter people that know more about this one.
You have rarely met a girl like Laura. Few women have been so beautiful, so exotic, so dangerous to know.
You're Laura Hunt, aren't you?
Yes.
I'm Shelby Carpenter. Want to dance?
I'm not alone.
Oh, you poor girl. I bet he still does the polka.
Yes, Betsy Ross taught it to me.
It was as natural for Laura to be picked out from among thousands of alluring girls as it was for her to be surrounded by luxury, mystery, and scheming men. Every woman will feel that when it comes to men, Laura gets by with murder. Every man will feel that when it comes to murder, it couldn't involve a more enticing girl.
Don't worry. I told you I'd bring in the killer today. Yeah, I was just going to make the arrest when you called. No, I can't tell you now. I'm not alone. You'll see when I come in.
Okay, the next one is a Patreon pick by Chris Rivers. It is also the Weekly Western.
Let's go.
Why not? Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Say when.
Feel I'm knocking up on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door.
Hey, Kitty, you bastard! It's you and I!
I don't deserve this.
Okay, guys, it is the 1969 Elvis vehicle, Charro, with an explanation point. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I never really got into Elvis movies. I don't mind the music. It's Elvis friggin' Presley. What can you say about him, man? He's the king. But, so I was like, okay, I don't know how this is going to be. I don't know how I'm going to like it. Can Elvis even act? I mean, and if he can, does he even care about this kind of stuff? So, this is a Western starring Elvis Presley. And he's pretty good in it. I liked him. He's got charisma, obviously. He's an entertainer. He knows where to be. He just does a good job. We have this story where he is double-crossed by a gang that he left over a woman. They frame him for stealing this cannon that's worth thousands. It's in sentimental value, and it's made out of like brass and gold and silver and stuff. So it's worth a lot of money. And this gang of bandits basically make him look like he did it. And that's the setup of the movie. Elvis ends up going to this old town where he's from. And the sheriff is a friend of his, and he says, tell me you didn't do it, man. Tell me you didn't do it. And he does. The sheriff is hurt, so Elvis kind of takes his position. But the gang won't really leave Elvis alone. And the lead gang's brother ends up causing trouble in town. He gets put in the jail. And the main baddie's not going to have his brother in jail. So he says, if you don't let my brother out, I'm going to blow that town to hell with this cannon. So basically it's up to Elvis to calm the townspeople, stop the gang, and clear his name. That's the plot of the movie. That's the setup. There's a lot of drama, a lot of talking, but there's a lot of good action. And most of the action takes place at the end. The setup is great with the cannon and the town being held for ransom in the middle. I love that. I really do dig that quite a bit. The bad guys are great. They give them enough character. They all look a little different. And I love the main baddie. He's awful. He's terrible, but he has a human side to him, which makes him more interesting. And not so much so that makes him the main character of the movie, but he's interesting and he gives a great performance. And the end shootout with a cannon is really cool. And the bad guys and everything, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's really good stuff. And they use the cannon and explosions to their benefit. Elvis is good in it. No complaints about it. A couple of the characters really upset me, but their actions actually made a lot of sense in the town. Good stuff. Very entertaining. I watched it on Vudu and HD. No Blu-ray, just a DVD. But I'm willing to check out some more Elvis movies. Let me know which ones are good, because I don't know. I don't know anything about Elvis's movies, and I don't want to watch the beach movies. That's really not my thing.
A different kind of role, a different kind of man.
Don't move, Jess.
Anybody makes a move to stop me, one of you never makes another move. Get off your horse, Vince. Walk toward me.
A different kind of role, a different kind of man, Elvis Presley, as the one called
Deserves got nothing to do with it.
When you have to shoot, shoot, don't talk.
Okay, guys, the next one is the VHS Voyage, and it is Tag, the Assassination game from 1982. I do have a copy of this, unfortunately, but man, is this movie cool. I had never really heard much about it. I think that Pure Cinema Brian Sauer mentioned it before, but he was talking about the newer movie Tag, and I don't know if this is a remake. That is a remake of this one, but the plot sounds similar, but different, I'm sure of it. First off, right off the bat, the movie opens up with Xander Berkeley, and I was like, that's weird. 2 Xander Berkeleys in 1 week. Small role. But Tag is a really weird movie. It takes place on the college campus, and these kids are playing this game called Tag, where it's like this complex assassination game with darts, and you pick everybody off, and the winner gets, they said a scholarship. I don't know how that's working out in this, but they're picking each other off, and it's got a great cast of actors in here and characters. Robert Carradine's the lead, which is a great lead, and a different kind of lead, and he's kind of love interest is Linda Hamilton, who's in the game of Tag. Robert Carradine is a journalist trying to cover the game because he likes Linda Hamilton. So those 2 leads are underrated actors, so I was like, I like them. I like their chemistry. I just wish they were in more movies. And then Bruce Abbott is also playing Tag. Bruce Abbott from Reanimator. And he's like kind of a tall, handsome guy, but he's like this dirty, disheveled guy, and he's just off. Michael Winslow's in it, doing his Police Academy, gag. I don't know why it's in here. It doesn't fit. It's kind of weird and distracting. It's probably one of the only hits on the movie, but it's not really his fault. It's how they wrote it. And there's some other familiar faces in here, which kind of surprised me. The heavy bully, the fat bully from Evil Speak is in here, who gets eaten by the pigs. And he's got to get a good role. But what happens is, this game goes wrong for Bruce Abbott. He's like the best there is. And this is not too typically of a spoiler, because it happens right off the bat, right in the first 15 minutes or so. And he loses. But he refuses to lose. And something snaps in his brain. And he starts playing Tag for real. And that's the plot of the movie. What's really cool about it is that Robert Carradine's character is obsessed with film noir. And right when you see him, the first time you see him, he's reading a book, Farewell, My Love, or Farewell, My Slave, with the one that was remade with Robert Mitchum. It's like a film noir classic. He's reading that, the way the movie's shot, the way sometimes they put music in it. Like, he is fantasizing about like a film noir world, and it kind of bleeds into the movie. It's really kind of cool and neat and different. Nick Castle directed this, who directed Major Pain and some other movies, and starred in Halloween and Halloween 2018 as The Shape, which is kind of cool and unique. But yeah, and like I said, this one is an interesting concept, and it turns into a slasher movie. It starts off like having like a kind of a game thing, college movie, filmed with film noir, aspects to it, and it turns into a slasher movie. So I enjoyed it. The kills aren't overly graphic or anything like that, but the suspense is good, and the acting's really good, and you'll get to watch Bruce Abbott, you know, as he tries to become more of like that clean-cut assassin, clean himself up and everything. And it was nice to see Robert Carradine in that lead role, and nice to see Linda Hamilton take like a lead and be like almost normal person. She's really zany, but she's cool. And Bruce Abbott play a villain, because I'm only familiar with Bruce Abbott from, you know, Bad Dreams and the Stuart Gordon movies, or the Reanimator series, the first two at least. So, yeah. But this is really interesting, really good stuff. There's no complaints. I wish there was a Blu-ray, wish there was a DVD. This one definitely needs a rediscovery, because I think it would do well, and I think it's interesting. And I don't think many people have seen it. That's Tag, the Assassination Game.
Hey! Hey! Come here. Come here.
Who are you?
Don't worry about me. I'm not playing the game. You're after Wallace, right? Yes. I thought so. He just went to the pool.
Pool?
The pool, idiot. The swimming pool. He's down there now. Oh my God, don't you want to be in the finals? Don't you want to win the game?
Yes.
Well, then go. Go on. Go on. Get going.
No, it's okay. He's trying to fake us out. You know, this game treating us all right, isn't it? Let's go get her, Ratatouille. Freeze! Looks like I'm a dead man. Oh, shit. Just like I said, he's gone. I looked up, he was gone.
Did you see Wallace up here?
Oh, don't worry about Wallace, I took care of him.
Okay, guys, here comes the pick a movie, and I can't remember who picked this, but I was happy. Motivational Growth. Now, I've seen this one before. It's just been years. So I was rewatching this, and man, motivational growth, definitely inspiration from video games. It has a lot of 16-bit graphics popping up here. We have this shut-in, also doing some narration right off the bat. He lives in this rundown, grungy, gross apartment. He doesn't take care of it. He's obsessed with his old Commodore TV. That's his only friend. He's named it Kent. And this TV goes out, and something crazy starts to happen. After that, his whole life goes out of control. Not that it wasn't already out of control before. And he finds this mold in the bathroom, voiced by Jeffrey Combs, which is really funny. And the mold keeps calling him Jack. After a suicide attempt, he wakes up and finds the mold, I should say. And the mold keeps calling him Jack, even though his name is Ian. And the mold starts to kind of manipulate him. And all these kind of characters are coming in and out of his world. The lady who delivers his groceries. The guy who runs the apartment complex he lives at. Box the Ox. Great performance by him. In fact, and a girl that kind of starts to fall for him in a really weird kind of forced love relationship. But the movie's so out there and you don't know what's reality, you kind of accept it. Because now if this was in reality, you'd be like, why is she going for him? I know people are weird, but no, nobody's going to go for this guy that lives in this gross environment. But it's in a crazy world, so you kind of forgive it. You don't know what's real, what's fake. So he has all these weird characters, including a TV repairman, 2 TV repairmen that come into his life. All of them are cartoons. All of them are super weird. Like I said, and Ox the Box or Box the Ox gives some of the best dialogue. He has a couple, monologues where he's talking about his past. And so one of the lines he says about breaking a chimpanzee's arm and comparing it to the thousands of screams or hundreds of screams he hears of people behind a church door with a broom handle while it's burning are just like, man, whoever wrote this, has had some sleepless nights. It is weird. Weird. I like the special effects. I like the performance from the lead. He's really good. I can't make ends meet exactly what's going on because he starts to get growth, motivational growth. He starts to grow, and you don't even know if the mold's completely evil or not, or it's doing it for its own ways. But it's such a weird movie. It's really gross as well. There's lots of body horror going on, eating mushrooms, hallucinations, popping zits on his face. Just a super bizarre, weird movie that I do think deserves more recognition. I guarantee when it came out, I remember a lot of people talking about it, a lot of people digging it, but I think this could be a cult classic now. Like, people go back and be like, oh man, this is crazy, this is good stuff. I'd like to see the director and filmmakers do more. I'm wondering what they've been up to, because I definitely would check out another movie. But this one's really great, really fun, really different. And I'm pretty sure the year it came out, 2014, maybe sooner, maybe a little sooner than that, or 2012 to 2014. It was definitely in my top then. But motivational growth, really great stuff. I like the transitions are weird too. Love the cartoons, love the 16-bit stuff, love the music, love the constant weird stuff repeating itself, and the mind fuckery of it all. That's motivational growth.
Panic is a weird state. Not like Wyoming is a weird state, either. Panic will grab you. Won't let you go. Panic will make you do things that you might not ever do on your own. Whether love, or anger, or excitement. Panic will drive you like a truck. And God help whatever's in your way. Panic connects us to the animals. Panic is common. Fire a gun in the zoo, everyone will jump, even the tigers it's built in. It protects us. It protects us from those things that would otherwise play our more susceptible emotions against us. Right now, I'm panicking.
Okay, let's do the pick a movie. Last week, the person who won was Robertson, and he picked Aka Robertson, and he picked Karaoke Tear from Synapse Films. I have that, so not seen it. Who's going to win this time? Giggity Wing. Let me close this. I know Giggity Wing, I think, has won before. But congrats, man. Let me know what you want me to watch. I'm sure it will be splendid. Absolutely splendid. But it's okay. I actually didn't have any questions. No one asked me nothing. I guess I talk too much. But just check my time because I'm unprofessional like that. The answers to last week's question was which big company or which company in general has the best horror back catalog? Like who's got the best back catalog of horror movies in, So Jonathan says, I would say New Line Cinema from back in the day. James Grimmer, MGM is a favorite of mine when it comes to their back catalog. They have put out a variety of titles that have entertained me over the years, such as Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Return of the Living Dead. It's as if they were never afraid to give filmmakers a chance. Whether the end result was good or bad, I have come on around on titles such as TerrorVision and The Video Dead, as I have come to embrace the cheese. No, they must have picked them up later, but Video Dead was originally Embassy, and TerrorVision was an Empire Vestron. I can't remember. Or Lightning. It might have been a Lightning. It's hard to remember all these sub-labels on VHS, but who ended up with them back in the day? So back catalog. Yeah, I guess that works. Chris Rivers. For laying the foundation of horror, Universal is a contender, but Warner Brothers has a nice track record themselves. Films like Freaks, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Spencer Tracy version, The Exorcist, The Shining, Poltergeist, Trick or Treat, the Conjuring franchise and its tie-ins, and Chapter 1 and 2 of It all make a compelling case for WB. Add in the fact that they contribute to the success of Hammer due to their partnership, and WB might just sit at the top of horror catalogs. I agree. They do it quite a bit. And Universal, man, they gave a lot of guys a chance. Like, I know Toby Hooper had a 3-picture deal, a lot of them guys. Peekaboo, question of the week. He's asking for a question. Can I vote for the French production company Exwad or Exwad? Yes, you can. So that's your answer. Not sure if I understood the question, but with movies like Irreversible, Martyrs, Ills, aka them, Brotherhood of the Wolf, and House of Voices. So yeah, I went for a French company. The M. Brown 80. I would say Universal had the better catalog, but I would like to mention the beauty of Hammer Studios' catalog and Viper Rose 1978. I'd say Universal probably has the best catalog, but my all-time favorite is Canon. Just off the top of my head, Return of the Living Dead, Death Wish 3. Can't go wrong with those three. I mean, those two. I can't count, apparently. I know you can. But the question of the week this week is, have you ever boycotted a movie or a label due to their practices? Like, are you one of those people that says, man, I'm never going to watch the Jeepers Creepers movies again, or I'm not going to buy from this company because I don't like how they treat their customers, or I don't like how they treated other labels? I'm just curious. Have you ever boycotted a movie or a label due to their practices? Okay, let's hop into the update. All right, let's hop into this update. This one's huge. I bought way too much this week. We have Vinegar Syndrome's The Suckling. You know what? I've seen this before. I'm not a particularly huge fan of The Suckling. But, yeah, I love Vinegar Syndrome, and I was willing to give this one another shot. Pretty cheesy. I love the concept. I just never thought this movie really paid off the way it should. I have the 88 Films version, but hey, can't say no to Vinegar Syndrome. Then we have In the Cold of the Night. I'm not really familiar with this movie, but yeah, it's more like a thriller. Some dreams should never come true. But Vinegar Syndrome releases some of the stranger titles there is, so looking forward to checking this out. So it's taking a little longer because I'm putting the slipcovers back on. I love their slipcovers. Then we have this one, Dominque. This one looks weird. Looks pretty crazy. I actually like this slipcover. It's pretty cool. Got a different cover in there. Story of the macabre with a different twist. Yeah. They release so much good stuff. They have a good taste. And if it's like weird, goofy stuff or like classy stuff, everything in between. They're the best labels, man. And then we have Fleshpot on 42nd Street, of course. Meet them all. This looks crazy. I don't even know if I should take the slipcover off this because I bet there's some nudity on the inside, so I'm going to avoid that. Okay, then we have some Shout Factory. They had a sale. Hang 'em High, Clint Eastwood. You know, this is one of these deals where I've seen it on TV several times, but I don't know if I've ever saw the whole movie. It's got a wonderful cast in here. I know there's a bunch of people in here. Look at that. On there, Ed Begley, Pat Hingle. I know that Bruce Dern pops in here, Ben Johnson, so can't pass that up. Clint Eastwood, hang him high. And we got John Carpenter with Kurt Russell in this Elvis. I've always wanted to see this, but the price was never right. A while back, it was right, so I grabbed it. Elvis. Yeah, love Kurt Russell. Love John Carpenter. Why not? Then we have Plague Dogs. This sounds like it's a miserable experience. And I'm into that. I'm into being miserable during movies. And every time I say a question thing, I sound like John Landis with my voice being gone and everything. But yeah, this looks cool. I heard it's pretty downbeat. Nighthawks with the wonderful Sylvester Stallone and Rutger Hauer. I don't think I've ever seen this movie, to be honest. It's a Shout Factory. Looks fun, looks crazy. Looks like it has a lot of good action. Then we definitely got to go for this one next. Cobra with Stallone, collector's edition from Shout Factory. This was the right price finally, $20. Had to grab it. It's been years since I've seen this movie. I always remember it being weird, even back as a kid. Brian Thompson's the baddie in it. I love Brian Thompson. Like you said, he's like one of them guys that always pops up in movies like that. Brian Thompson, man. He's been killed by Stallone, killed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's been kicked by Van Damme. I can't beat that. Then we have The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. This is a Hammer Brothers, Shaw Brothers crossover. This is the last in the Hammer Dracula series. This movie, to me, always felt like a great precursor to Army of Darkness by Sam Raimi, and I feel like you might have seen it. Unfortunately, Christopher Lee does not play Dracula in it, but this movie is a blast. This movie is awesome. And also, the weird skeleton golden things remind me of Golden Armored Skeletor. This movie's great. I can't wait to rewatch it in HD finally. Then we have The Mangler by Tobe Hooper. Written by a story by Stephen King, starring Robert Englund and Ted Levine. This movie is weird as hell. This is one of these movies that's so weird, I don't know if I even like it, to be honest. But it's so weird I had to have it at the same time. So, hey, maybe I do like it. The Howling 3, The Marsupials. This is a batshit crazy movie, too. It's one of those ones that I've seen parts of. I watched most of it. It's just it's so fucking weird. I don't know if I even like it either. It's just weird, man. The Howling series is on drugs. Then we have The Land of Doom from Ronin Flicks. Sorry about that glare. I'm trying to get rid of it for you. I had not really heard much about this one. Looks like a post-apocalyptic movie. I like Scorpion. Scorpion and Ronin Flicks. Looks like it's part of their MGM deal. Then we got another one. Angel Unchained. This looks like a crazy biker exploitation movie. It had a good cast in there. Don Strode, Lou Askew, Larry Bishop. So yeah, had to check it out. Rated PG-13. That must have been a re-rating. And then last from Ronin, Robot Holocaust. This movie's nonsense as well. It's one of these movies that's I know it's inherently a bad movie, but I just have to have it. It's so weird and so bonkers. Somebody called it the cheap Chrono Trigger movie. I think Jeremy did, and I can see that. But yeah, where's Mutant Hunt? If we got Robot Holocaust on Blu-ray, we need Mutant Hunt. We want Mutant Hunt. We want Mutant. All right, I'm done. But Robot Holocaust, ridiculous. This one's got some controversy behind it, and I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the release. From Dark Force, this is a Code Red. Oh, this is actually a Dark Force release of The Last Victim, a.k.a. the remake of Forced Entry. And I guess what happened, this is supposed to have both cuts on it. The 88-minute and the 82-minute or something like that. But it ended up being 70. What's the time on here? 2 runtimes, 77 and 75. But yeah, I guess the director went and re-edited both cuts how he wanted them. And the director isn't an old folks home apparently, but still, it's kind of a bummer because I've never seen this movie. It's not an easy movie to find. It's not like everybody already has a Blu-ray copy, so it'd be nice to have at least the real versions of it, maybe one version of the director's. So I don't know. I'm not even sure if I want to watch it at this point. I'm hoping maybe another company overseas picks it up and releases it uncut. I don't know what's even cut, so I can't really comment on it. Then we have, for a few dollars more, The final from Kino, the final of the Man with No Name trilogy released. This is the second in the series. This is probably my favorite of the series. Yeah, it's got Lee Van Cleef in it. It's got Luigi Pistelli in it. I love it. It's good stuff. It's been a while since I watched it, but you can't go wrong with Kino. You can't go wrong with Clint Eastwood. You can't go wrong with Sergio Leone, ever. So, and then we got No Holds Barred. Yeah, that's right. Hulk Hogan versus Tom Lister. It's also got Kurt Fuller in it. This is a movie I used to watch as a kid. I saw it probably about 7 years ago. I don't think it's going to hold up again, but hey, I had to have it. And the only DVD in the pile, Nigel the Psychopath, from the director of Butt Crack. I like Butt Crack so much, I had to check out Nigel the Psychopath. This is from what? Scream. I can't see that. Scream something films. Scream Time films. They released a bunch of stuff, and I actually think I have some more titles from them, but I'm looking forward to checking this out. But that is the update. Let's go back to the video. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching, and as always, you guys have a good one. That sounded terrible, didn't it?